George, Elizabeth, and Steve have something important in common. Like millions of other Americans, they're living with heart failure.
It's not the end of the world, it's just a challenge.
They're making lifestyle changes and working with their healthcare providers to be as healthy as possible. It's a journey that begins with knowledge.
It can appear daunting, but information is empowering.
Heart failure, two words that can be frightening to hear.
Is terrifying.
I said, why me? I was shocked.
But having heart failure does not mean your heart is about to stop beating.
Heart failure refers to the fact that the heart isn't sufficiently doing its job. It's not meeting the needs of the body to the full extent.
The heart is a muscle that keeps blood circulating around the body. If parts of the heart get weak or stiff, the heart has to work harder. Dr. Paul Mather compares it to a car engine losing power.
The heart is the engine and the car is your body. And what happens is as your engine becomes weaker, the car doesn't go as fast, it can't take your trailer up the hill. So that's how I describe heart failure.
For Steve, that meant every step was becoming a chore.
I felt sluggish and real tired. I didn't know what it was.
Then one day, he found himself gasping for air while talking with his dad.
He rushed me to the hospital and found out I had heart failure.
The most common causes of heart failure are high blood pressure, called hypertension, coronary artery disease, or clogged arteries, and diseases of the heart muscle and heart valves. The risk of heart failure is also raised by having a past heart attack, high cholesterol, diabetes, and obesity. Lack of exercise, smoking, and excessive alcohol may also play a role. How you live affects your heart. But as Elizabeth learned, even with a healthy lifestyle, you might still develop heart disease.
Well, I was in the best shape of my life then, and I was probably working out at the gym 5 days a week, playing tennis twice a week, and doing yoga twice a week.
9 years ago, Elizabeth started feeling terrible while working at home. Her husband took her to the hospital, where she felt worse and worse while she waited to be seen.
And then the next thing I knew, I could hear somebody saying that somebody was having a heart attack.
That somebody was Elizabeth. She had suffered a massive heart attack, which severely damaged her heart. She was lucky to be alive, but ever since, she has been living with heart failure.
Because I was pulled out of a perfectly healthy, fabulous life, and I was stuck in this place of being so sick and so messed up and upside down. And it's like you want to get back to being healthy and active and normal, and it's tough.
Some of the typical symptoms of heart failure are shortness of breath, cough, and fatigue, and they are quite often overlooked.
George is the head of a major hospital workers union. He was just too busy to pay attention to his symptoms.
I think I was in denial about what was happening with my body.
Then on a business trip, barely able to breathe, he wound up in an emergency room and found out what was wrong.
And as I read the symptoms of heart failure, I realized that my body was the loss of appetite, the inability to sleep, were symptoms of the body shutting down.
Other symptoms of heart failure may include swelling in the feet, ankles, or abdomen, nausea, vomiting, confusion, or depression. If you're not feeling like yourself, don't put off seeing your healthcare provider.
Why don't you sit up and take your socks off, and then I'll examine your lungs, and then we'll lay back down to examine your legs, okay?
Okay.
Diagnosing heart failure usually starts with a physical exam and questions about your medical history.
There's no swelling here, no tenderness when I touch your feet and legs.
Good communication is essential.
It's really important for patients to be very frank and honest about, all aspects of their day-to-day life.
After the initial exam, further testing is done to look at the heart and measure its function. An echocardiogram uses sound waves to provide an image of your heart and the blood flowing through it. Electrocardiograms, or ECGs, also provide information for the diagnosis, along with blood tests and chest x-rays. Finding out you have heart failure can be a shock, but you'll also discover that effective treatments and therapies are available.
They can prevent hospitalizations, and bottom line is they can make people feel better and extend their life.
After surviving a heart attack, Elizabeth moved right on to the next challenge, coping with heart failure.
I didn't want to waste a lot of time feeling sorry for myself and thinking, oh, how could this have happened to me? It's so unfair. I really wanted to make the best of what I was given as a gift of a second chance.
Making changes to your diet, exercise, and other habits can help reduce your symptoms, slow the progression of heart failure, and improve your everyday life.
And it's extremely important that the patients work carefully with their providers and understand that heart failure really has to be managed by everyone involved.
If you smoke, you need to quit. Find out about a support group to join or a nicotine replacement product that might help.
There are medicines that can also help patients quit smoking, and patients can discuss that with their physician. It really helps too to let your family and friends know that you'd like to quit smoking so that they can really help support your efforts.
It's also vitally important to reduce the salt or sodium in your diet. Learn to read labels and look up the sodium content of your favorite foods.
It's the hidden salt that's in everything. It's like you can't eat anything that comes out of a box or frozen or can or, pre-made food or even food in restaurants.
If you keep salt in your body, you will keep water in your body. And having heart failure is like having a clogged sink. The more water there is in that sink, the harder your heart has to pump and work.
That's why people with heart failure need to limit fluids to no more than 2 liters, about 8 cups a day.
Take a 2-liter empty plastic bottle and put it on their counter. Every time they drink something, whether it's a glass of something or soup, I ask them to pour the equivalent amount into the bottle. They can watch the bottle get filled, and they'll know the speed of how much they're drinking. If it's 3/4 of the way up and it's only 2 in the afternoon, you've drunk too much in the morning.
If you drink alcohol, talk to your healthcare provider about what's safe for you. People with heart failure need to be as active as possible. For Elizabeth, that comes naturally.
I love working out. I'm addicted to going to the gym, and I will never stop going.
But even Elizabeth checked with her doctor before jumping back into her routine. Your healthcare team can help you get moving, even if you have not been active in the past.
Heart failure patients may feel a little anxious about, safely exercising, but even moderate exertion, moderate intensity exercise for half an hour a day, 3 to 5 times a week can really help patients improve their functional status and help them feel better.
You'll also feel better if you can maintain a healthy weight. Set a goal with your healthcare provider and talk about how you can achieve it. Actually, people with heart failure need to weigh themselves daily. It's one way to check for signs that fluid is building up. Get in touch with the doctor if you start to gain weight, or if you notice swelling around your stomach, ankles, or feet.
And one of the ways to know is when you take your socks off at night, the mark around your ankle is deeper than you're used to seeing.
And many times patients with heart failure also develop irregular heart rhythms, so sort of racing heartbeats or palpitations. Those are all symptoms to be aware of and to inform your physician about.
You should also tell your healthcare provider about feelings of depression or anxiety.
Depression and anxiety are quite common for many patients that have chronic diseases of any sort. There are times where we will recommend that a patient be evaluated by a professional, by a psychiatrist or a psychologist, or engage in something as simple as a support group meeting where they can really share their thoughts with other patients who also have heart failure.
In addition to making lifestyle changes, most people with heart failure benefit from taking one or more medicines. These can help relieve symptoms and slow the progression of the disease.
Keep your medicines the same, keep doing what you're doing, monitor yourself as always.
Again, good communication with your healthcare provider can help keep you on track. Make sure to ask about how and when to take your medicine and possible side effects.
Not everybody tolerates every medicine, but it's extremely important that the patient works with their provider to figure out what regimen is going to be best for them.
As with all medications, it's key to take them as directed. Build a routine so you don't forget. As an interior designer, Elizabeth chose an unusual way to remember, but it works for her.
The medicine for the evening is always at the foot of the bronze toad.
In addition to medicines, you might at some point need surgery to improve your heart function, or you might benefit from an implanted device. George has a defibrillator to steady his heart rhythm. For very severe cases, a heart transplant may be an option.
You cannot do it alone. It's an overwhelming burden if you try and climb that mountain alone.
So reach out for help. Ask about support groups and services in your community, and draw on your own personal network as well.
It is important to have family members, friends, co-workers who can support you where maybe you're tempted to eat that fried, salty food and they say, slow down. They make sure that you've taken your medicine.
So often it's the caregiver that will notice that a person's having more breathing difficulties or having more difficulty sleeping at night.
But ultimately, it's up to you.
My future looks good as long as I'm doing the right thing, exercising, doing what the doctors tell me, taking medications, and being healthy.
Take care of yourself, listen to what your doctor says, and do the things you need to do to take care of your heart.
Living with heart failure requires an active commitment to working with your healthcare provider, taking your medications, making lifestyle changes,
And paying attention to your own body and how you feel. Try to stay on top of managing the heart failure.
And what we want to do is make that engine, your heart, as efficient as possible so you can carry on with your life.